Okay, folks. So today joining me is my great friend and realtor partner, Kortney Aukerman from Spokane, Washington, to give us an update, local market update about real estate in the area. If this is your first time joining us, thanks for checking out the channel. Make sure to check out all the description stuff in the below in the description box, and make sure to like and subscribe. We're just going to do a quick interview here. Thank you so much for joining us, Kortney.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
I'm going to start my little timer here. It's approximately 30 minutes, right?
All right.
No pressure.
No pressure.
So I guess, yeah, first and foremost, tell us a little bit about yourself and like your story.
Yeah, so I was born and raised here in Spokane. I've lived here my whole life. I used to work in the medical field before I got into real estate. My good friend Jennifer Barnhart, she got me into real estate, and I absolutely love it so far. It's been an awesome experience. And yeah, we're just trying to hold out through this horrible winter we're having.
Yeah, I know, off camera, we were talking about, the weather and stuff and how it's crazy right now. This weird weather, both in Northern California and where you are. How is it? What's the temperature there right now?
Gosh, I think it's like 28 degrees or something, but the ground was bare last night when I went to bed, and I woke up and we have over a foot of snow now. So everywhere is completely snowed in, and none of the roads are plowed. So hopefully it gets fixed here soon.
Okay, fair enough. Well, let's jump right into it. So tell us a little bit about the Spokane market and, what people can anticipate if they're either looking to buy in Spokane, maybe they live in Washington now, or if they're potentially looking to move or relocate to Spokane area.
Yeah, so here in Spokane, we are still in a buyer's market. That being said, the market is heating up every single day. We have been seeing some multiple offer situations, specifically within the, $200,000 to $300,000 price range. So that is exciting. But all in all, compared to this time last year, sales are down about 35%. Inventory is up about 170%. So it really is night and day. But
Wow.
we are seeing,
Wow.
we are seeing the market heat up. So it's looking good going into spring.
Okay. Are you seeing, so days on market are probably higher and you're seeing like offers that are lower, right?
Yeah, about 22 days on market, I think is average. And last time I checked, I think offers average sales price was about 1.3% below list price. So we're staying pretty close to list price, but.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So what are some things, tell us about your process, not only things that differ you from other realtors, because you and I worked together for some time, and I definitely recommend anybody out there watching this, if you're looking to buy in Spokane area, you should definitely contact Kortney. Check the description box below before you make a choice. But what are some of the things, what is your process, and what does that look like for somebody who's looking to buy or sell?
Yeah, I appreciate that. So my process works. I always do a meeting in person, face to face first. I like to do this because it really gives both of us a great opportunity to get to know each other in person. And this is also the point where we will kind of go over, what you are looking for in your sales or your home buying or sales process. And it's also the point at which we will go over a home buyers and sellers guide if you're unfamiliar with the home buying process. So that's a good point to get all of your questions and concerns out of the way. It's also the point at which if you're a buyer, I'll get you in contact with Aaron so he can get you your pre-approval. And if you're a seller, we'll get you your listing paperwork that you can look over before we put your house on the market and start advertising. Yeah.
Super. Good. I wonder about, I know there's so many different pockets and stuff in the country where we're seeing, I'm thinking of, for example, right now in North Carolina, it's definitely still a seller's market if you're selling below 300,000, right? It's just very popular because of the affordability. What are some challenges that maybe, buyers in your area are facing, and how can we help with those things? And then where are some areas that you're seeing success?
So I think buyers are very concerned right now with interest rates. That's the one, concern that my buyers have had. And I think it's important for buyers to remember that you are not married to your interest rate. You always have the option to refinance down the line. It's also a very common thing here in Spokane for buyers to ask sellers to buy down their interest rate with, points. So that's been an awesome option for buyers here. Yeah. What was your next question? I'm sorry, I missed it.
Oh no, just successes. But I want to touch on that really quick because that's such a good point that a lot of folks don't know is they can use seller concessions, right? And for those of you watching that don't know what a seller concession is, a seller concession is basically just where a seller of a home will essentially, in a roundabout way, they'll give you some of the money or some of the proceeds of the purchase of the home, right? In order to cover things like closing costs, like buying down your interest rate. So let's say the par interest rate right now is like, let's say it's 7%, hypothetically. You could potentially get that down to 6 or even 5 or something, right? So I think that's what you're talking about there. Mhm. So what are some of the successes that you're seeing where people are having right now in Spokane and like some of the things people are doing to like, let's say, get their contract accepted?
Yeah, so there's a lot of awesome successes happening in Spokane right now. Buyers are, in a position where they have not previously been able, there's a lot bigger range of home buyers that have not been able to previously purchase in the last few years that are seeing that option now. So that's really exciting. And, sellers, we are seeing housing prices still stay pretty high. And so most sellers are going to be walking away from the sale of their home with a good amount of equity still.
Okay. Now, how about things like, let's say, investment properties? Like, is Spokane like a good area to buy, let's say, rentals or Airbnbs? And what does that look like right now?
I'm sorry, you broke up a tiny bit. Repeat your question one more time.
Oh, sure. So, in Spokane, like in the greater Spokane area too, is Spokane a good area to buy like Airbnb properties or investment properties? And what is that looking like?
Yeah, this is an awesome place for rentals and stuff. There's actually a lot going on in Spokane. I don't know if you've been keeping up with Spokane politics, but yesterday Spokane City Council actually voted on a new landlord tenant ordinance, which I'm not gonna lie, it's very controversial. There's a lot of mixed feelings on it, but it's gonna open up, a lot of rental properties on the market. We think a lot of landlords are gonna be selling their rental properties, and so it could be a great opportunity for people looking to invest here in Spokane.
Okay.
Yeah.
What are some of the highlights of Spokane just and the greater Spokane area that maybe people outside Spokane and Washington don't know about?
Oh my gosh, downtown has gone fixed up a ton from, if you visited 5, 10 years ago, we have a gondola ride down there. There's the pavilion. And then obviously we have Mount Spokane State Park. It's great for skiing, hiking, snowboarding, all of your outdoor activities. And we're also, one of the things I tell people, we're in such close proximity to Canada, an ocean, Idaho, the Oregon coast. It's just an awesome place to be for all of those fun things to do.
Okay.
Mhm.
And how about for folks who maybe don't, let's say, I mean, I know there's probably people moving from places like California and stuff. Um, how long do the winters last in Spokane?
So this one does vary because if you would have asked me last year, I would have told you maybe like 2 to 3 months. But this year, our winter started really early. Like I think our first snowfall was in September, and we just got, another snowfall this last night. So it can be honestly anywhere from September through March, April-ish.
Okay.
Yeah.
Another thing that comes to mind too that I'm hearing a lot about, and you're probably hearing this a lot too, is there seems to be a lot of this sort of like trickling and bubbling talk about a housing crash, right? Now, I'll withhold my opinion for a second here, but I want to bounce this off you because you're in your market and stuff. What is your opinion sort of on this general sentiment in the country that, well, I'm going to wait to buy a house because I think there's going to be a housing crash?
So personally, I do not see that happening. I think people are referring probably to the housing crisis we saw in 2008, right? And, there's so many protections put in place to prevent that from happening. And our market is so different from what it was back then that I honestly don't see that happening. And the market is already heating back up. I think we've kind of come back down to a normal market compared to what we saw during COVID land in 2020. And that's freaking people out because they think the housing market is crashing, but in reality, we're just kind of going back to a normal housing market.
Yeah, so you would say it's more balanced, right? Potentially. Do you think that even though the inventory has gone up in the last year, in the Spokane area, is inventory technically still low or no?
I wouldn't say it's necessarily low. I think inventory is up and sales are down, which is how the properties are sitting on the market for longer. But we still had, I think last time I checked, like over 500 properties like just in downtown Spokane up for sale. So there's stuff for sale out there, but not as
Mm,
not as drastic as we saw in the last few years for sure.
okay. Yeah,
Hmm.
fair enough. Because I know so many markets across the US in the past, let's say 2 to 3 years, especially when we had interest rates very, very low, right? Values have gone up big time. So
Yeah,
we're maybe seeing a leveling off now, right?
that's
So
nice.
yeah. So it seems to be, maybe it feels expensive, but in reality, it's more just normal, right?
It's
I think.
more normal, exactly.
Yeah. Another thing about it, of course, is where else would you put your money, right? I mean, in terms of investment, right? Stock market's not the not my favorite. I've lost a lot of money in the stock market in the past 2 to 3 years. But so many people that I know that own real estate, I mean, they're just doing great, right? I mean, you're taking advantage of inflation, right?
That's what I tell
For
people
that.
is like, they're like, we don't want to have a mortgage payment, but you already have a mortgage payment. It's just not your mortgage payment. So where are you going?
Yeah. Well, I was just going to ask you that because, when you're dealing with potential first-time home buyers, there's oftentimes so many things that they'll tell us, right, about their concerns about buying a house, whether it's I feel like I'm going to be trapped and stuff like that. What are some things that you talk about with potential first-time home buyers about, some of their concerns of owning versus renting and the benefits of owning versus renting?
Well, I just tell first-time homebuyers you have so much more freedom when it comes to owning your own home, especially with the I'm feeling trapped, saying it's like when you're in a lease at an apartment, you are like, stuck in that lease for that 6 months. Where versus if you're in own a home, you're in a loan, right, for 30 years, but that doesn't necessarily trap you. You can go travel the world, rent out your house, and make profit, on your empty rooms, or you can, move to Jamaica for a year and rent out your house, or you can sell in 2 years and try and make a profit. It's like you have so much more power, and you're paying those monthly payments to build your own equity. It's not just money that's going down the drain. So you have a lot more power as I think as a homeowner.
Yeah, I totally love this response because for so many years, I used to not only believe that myself, right, but I would hear it from friends. I'm originally from San Diego, where it's very, very expensive to live. And so many folks would say, well, I don't want to buy for those reasons. I'm afraid of being trapped, right? I'm going to be stuck and stuff. And now that I'm a homeowner, I mean, gosh, I literally just had a roommate who was renting from me, paying almost my entire mortgage. I basically just didn't have a mortgage payment, right? I'm just like, hey, I've got an extra room. I can rent it to this person for 6 months. He rented from me for 6 months and now he's moved out. But for 6 months, my mortgage payment was completely covered. And at the same time, also, if I needed to go and travel somewhere, I could do that and he would be able to help me, let's say feed the cats or, whatever, watch over the house, make sure everything is doing okay. So yeah, I think it's such a good point that if you're thinking about, purchasing a home, or maybe you haven't thought about it, but maybe this conversation sparks some lights in your mind. There's so much power in owning versus renting. Renting, of course, has its benefits. They both do. But in terms of long-term power over your life and control and freedom, really, right? You really have so much to say there. There's so many massive bits of value in owning than there is if you're renting. What are some of the downsides of renting that you can think about?
Oh my gosh, the downsides of renting. Well, obviously, that money you're paying what in Spokane, the average rental right now is $1,800 a month, which is insane. And that's an apartment, not even a house. So all of that money that you're spending every single month, you're never going to see again. You're not making any of that back. Apart from that, you're held to a lot of different standards. Your landlords, you don't have control over what you want to paint your living room like, or if you want to have pets or you don't want to have pets, or sometimes we'd like to say every landlord is good, but oftentimes you'll be in a situation where you have black mold growing on the ceiling and there's nothing you can do about that because your landlord doesn't want to fix it, and it's going to have to come out of your own pocket, which isn't fair to you either. So I think, yeah, I never have rented. I'm 20 years old. I've never rented anything in my life, and I did that for a reason. For sure.
Yeah, yeah, it's humongous. It can feel at first like if you're used to renting, it can feel as though it's safer. But in reality, when you actually think it through, you wind up realizing like, no, there's so many downsides here that maybe you just didn't think about. If you're renting a home, for example, your landlord can sell and then say, guess what? You're out. You've got to move and you have less power there, right? I was renting a house years ago and it turned out that there's a term called rent skimming. A lot of you folks out there probably haven't heard this term, but rent skimming is when you're renting a place and your landlord or the owner of the property stops paying the mortgage and they start falling behind. The next thing you know, you get kicked out because the bank forecloses. And that's exactly what happened to me. Now, of course, that's rare, but there's other situations too that are less rare, but make it less advantageous for you. One of the biggest ones that you just said is about the amount of rents, right? Not only do your rents go up typically every year, but I just had a situation with one of my clients. He was moving from California, Palmdale, California, to here in Arizona. I was able to get him into a $325,000 loan, and his payment per month was $200 less than what his rent was. I mean, it was just disgusting. And he was just as happy as can be, right? Yeah. So if you're thinking about potentially, buying or, you start to get interested in these questions, definitely contact Kortney or myself, because we can kind of walk you through all these different scenarios, these different pathways and options and stuff, right? To make sure that you're on the right path to meet your goal, right? Of home ownership. The American dream is still alive and well as long as you plan, right? You have to plan. Yes. Okay. Let me see. I want to see if I haven't missed anything. Oh, yes. Okay. So this is a very common question I'm getting right now. So I want to bounce this off you. What do you think about folks who maybe they do want to buy, but they're concerned about payments or affordability? A lot of folks come to me right now and they say, hey, Aaron, I want to get approved, but I think what I want to do is I want to try to buy a foreclosure, right? Or I want to buy a fixer-upper. What are your responses to that? Like, what do you think about those things in your area?
So here's the thing with foreclosures. When you buy a foreclosed property, that property comes completely as is. That includes the foreclosed property and the title. So if there are any liens on that title, those go into your name, right? You're going to have no idea how extreme the damage is. You're going to have no idea how much repairs are going to cost. And so it's a very risky investment. It's why they are so popular with investors. And, if you're someone that has the money that you want to throw into, take a risk on that investment property, then go for it. But I think if you're the average home buyer, there are a lot smarter, better options to explore first, in my opinion.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
100%. I'm glad you said that. Yeah, because it seems to be a popular thing right now. I think it's a popular thing because of the concern about affordability, right? Folks are like, things are expensive. Things aren't as affordable as I want. So I'm going to go for a foreclosure or maybe a short sale or a big time fixer upper. But there's a lot more hurdles typically to jump over when you're going into one of those properties, right? Yeah. There can be snags in the deal. How about buying land? This is another common question that I get a lot. Hey, I'd like to buy a piece of land and put, something on it. How is that looking? What are the steps, or, what can you speak to there in terms of your area in there in Spokane?
So here in Spokane, land is pretty expensive still. So are construction costs. The cost of wood is really, really high right now. And also we're seeing a shortage of workers. So the chances that you're going to be seeing delays in your home build are pretty high. I like to tell people they don't realize that you're going to be putting in power, you're going to be putting in septic and water, and that can really add up along with the permits that you need. You need to get all these permits. That can be a really long, lengthy process. So that being said, if you have the money and you want to build your forever home exactly the way you want it, I think it's a great option. We have some beautiful property out here in Washington where you could make something really beautiful. But if you are, the average home buyer, I think there are some better options you're going to be just as happy with.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it depends too, right? I mean, we talk about land being expensive, and it probably depends on location, I imagine, and where it is. There is one option though, and I'm going to do a video on this. Probably you guys stay tuned, because this coming week, I'm going to do a video on something called a one-time close loan or a one-time construction loan. I have 3 of my lenders that I work with as a broker. that'll do this thing called a one-time construction loan. So if you do have your heart set on buying a piece of land in Spokane or anywhere else, and you want to put let's say you want to put a home on it, they won't do a new build, like a stick build, but what they will do is a modular home. So you can buy a piece of land and you can put a modular on it, right? And then from there, now you've got one loan, one piece of funding, and you close. And typically, you don't start making any payments until the loan funds and closes, and you get your keys and move into the house. So that's a possibility too, right? Mm-hmm. Good stuff there. Let's see if I want to make sure I'm not forgetting anything. So buying land, we went over that. What about folks like perhaps with, impacted credit or things, maybe they feel like there's hurdles in the way? Like how can you help with those folks?
Yes, I come across a lot of these kinds of people, and that's why I always tell people, get in contact with someone like Aaron as soon as you possibly can, because people like Aaron are going to help you get past those hurdles. They're going to help you get your credit up, reduce your debt to income, all those things you need to do to become eligible for a home loan, right? And so I got a lot of people that are first-time home buyers that wait till their lease is about to end or until they need to get out of their current housing situation to contact me or to contact Aaron. And it's really disheartening when you find out you're going to have a few months of work to do before you get there. So if you're looking to buy within the next 6 months to a year plus, get in contact with someone right now so you can find out what you need to do.
Yeah, I was actually I love that too. I think it's really, really good to plan, right? You should plan your work and work your plan. So don't think about right now the immediate, like if I'm not going to buy a house today or, something, then I'll just wait. You want to make sure you get pre-approved, right? That way you're not wasting your time and you're not wasting the realtor's time, right? It's also sort of a tease factor. You go online, you look at some houses, maybe you go to some open houses, but you're not pre-approved. So you love this house, but you can't even make an offer because you're not pre-approved, right? That's super, super important to make sure. Let's see. I think I have at least one other one that's pretty common that I'm hearing, and that is a lot of folks want to buy, but they don't have the down payment, right? They're really worried about a high down payment and stuff like that. Can you speak to that and like how you could potentially help people overcome those challenges of a big down payment? Right?
Yeah, so there are a ton of options for people that are struggling with their down payment. We have a lot of down payment assistant programs. There's a thing called a USDA loan. I think we were talking about this as an option for one of our clients, where you can purchase property outside of town, and it's, if you qualify, it's a zero down payment. Oh, I lost you. Are you still there?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay, sorry, your video cut out. I thought I lost you. But yeah, it's a zero down payment if you qualify for that loan. So there's some good options. There's so many options out there for people. You just got to talk to someone like me or Aaron, and we'll tell you all about it.
Yes. Yeah. There are so many times where folks mistakenly believe someone influenced them to believe that they can't buy a house until they have a giant down payment, 10,000, 20,000, 30,000, right? And a lot of folks, even same thing with credit score. Oh, I have to have a 620 to qualify. You do not need a 620 credit score to qualify necessarily, right? Very important to know. So if you're watching this and you were previously thinking, I need to have a big down payment and a great credit score, contact Kortney, contact myself. There are not only down payment assistance programs where you don't have to come in with a down payment, but there's other types of loans, such as VA loans, for example. If you're a veteran, that's a 100% financing loan, right? You don't need any down payment whatsoever. There are also many programs for folks that have impacted credit. There are terms and conditions, but I've gotten people approved with far less than a 620 score. And then usually during that time, what we'll do is, maybe you get approved, we purchase a house, maybe the pricing is slightly higher because of where the credit score is. Then we just work with you to get your credit score higher, and then we just refinance, right? And then you're really cooking with gas at that point. Yeah. Okay. Anything else you want to tell us about Spokane and your foresight into the future for this year?
I think Spokane is an amazing place to live. I love it here, and I wish more people knew about it because a lot of people, no one ever comes to Spokane, and we need more people. So if you're interested in moving, there's so many fun things. Yeah.
That's great. Is there lots of hiking, mountains, and camping, and rivers and streams and all that kind of stuff?
Endless everything outdoors. If you're an outdoors person, Spokane is the place for you, for sure.
Awesome. I love that. That's my favorite. Even though I grew up in San Diego, I'm not really a beach person. I've always been a mountain person. I love camping in the mountains. So yeah, I love it. Let's see here. Kortney, where can people contact you?
Phone is best. My number is 509-991-4847. Call or text works great. I'm also, I check my email every day. I'm on all social media platforms, so I'm really available wherever you can find me. So,
Super. Yep. And again, just as a reminder, if you're watching this, I'm going to put Kortney's contact information all in the description box below. You guys, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe, and have a great week.